Hello everyone, this is Johnny from BallBreakers Clan, bringing you a new video from Miniclip.com and Ultimate Golf. Today we've got something new and exciting. We're going to be playing a new course, and Miniclip has invited content streamers to do an invitational tournament where real prizes will be awarded. I have no delusion of grandeur that I will be winning any of these prizes, but I figured I can give you some first looks at the holes, and as well as give my opponents some first looks at the holes. So a couple of the rules from this is there are no replays. Everything will be done at first look, and it's going to be a little bit higher wind, and 18 new holes, so we have no idea of the breaks, the lengths, the distances, or any of that stuff. So it's going to be pretty interesting and fun, and we'll see how well we do. Alright, so let me go ahead and get set up with everything here. And let's look at this first hole. So this is Arnold Palmer's Bay Hill Clubbing Lodge. And this is a huge dogleg left. Looks like the pin is on the right side, so we're either going to have to land directly on the green or use some side spin. There's no way we're getting within wedge range for a short wedge, even with this tall wind. So let's use a ball to kind of knock this down. And let's go for Bigfoot range. So I'll be using the horizon to kind of control. I'm looking to be right there at about max. Hey, Mr. Kenham. Yeah, I'm excited to see this new course. Hopefully you guys like it. Everyone always likes getting something new in the game. And it's kind of cool, I think, that they invited us to play this for first look and give us something to stream and get the community involved in. So 274. We are going to be in Bigfoot range. We've got a nice straight tailwind. We're going to be really close to min, or max, I mean, which is nice that I didn't get a headwind. Looks like the bounce out is fairly straight. I don't see any kind of turn in it. Let's get down here and look close at it. So right now, at max, I'm at about 1.5 from the first bounce to the pin. So let's put some backspin on this. I'm going to put that second bounce right at about the front lip of the cup. Looks like our max back rollout is about 1 ring, or 1.2. Alright, so there's our front lip of the cup, approximately. And tailwind, I use about 1.5 back to adjust for it myself. So let's line up our shot. Try to get everything all nice and straight. Let's make sure. As you can see, when I put the top spin on it, it stays pretty much in its place. So we're not going to get any kind of bounces left or right from the green itself. Only if I hit bad or I pull bad. So once I adjust, I'm going to be about 2.9 rings from max. So which means I'm going to need to adjust about 2.9 rings. Got just a slight angle on the wind, so it's not straight. At least we get an ultimate shot on their first one. And let's look at this rollout. What a great start. Always nice to get a eagle on the first drop. That was a little hot though. So with max back with the tailwind, we're looking at about a 1.7 ring on the rollout, 1.6. As you can see, I'll be competing against Duff, Radu, Jared Alexander, David Pendleton Gaming, or Clash DP, Boris Banco. Alright, so our second hole, par 3. We've got the pin in the front. It looks like I might need to go with a higher power ball. Let's take a look at what a 10% ball, if that gets us closer. There we go. So this way we can do our wood and not our driver. Hey Simon, thanks for the good luck. Vivek, thanks for stopping by and say hi. I hope I smash it. Thanks, Mr. Cannon. I think everybody's going to start on their own schedule. We've got the whole weekend to play it and post it whenever we want. I noticed that Jimmy and Duff are going to be playing at 9 o'clock tonight. So make sure you stop in and watch them. You'll learn a lot. Alright, so now that we're able to land a little better onto the green, because you can see how the bounce out change if you land not on the green. It goes a lot longer and turns a little bit more. So we really want to use a higher distance ball to make sure we land on that. And if we also look, we can see that it's going to bounce off to the left. From our initial landing. So we are going to need to adjust with some right spin to kind of straighten that out. Now my route isn't as defined, so it's kind of harder to see the rollouts from it. As you can see here, we've got an upward slope on this green. and so it's going to make it for a short rollout. Yeah, I don't know if they're giving away anything. It'd be great if they do. Hopefully, they'll start giving me ball packs to hand out. So I'm going to say my rollout's probably about right there. I'm going to add my 1.5 backspin on it. Well, let's line this up. We're 1 bar from max on our rollout. So we've got 5 win, which will put us about slight angle about 3 rings from max, maybe 2.5. So we're needing about 4 rings of adjustment. So we need a little more right spin to account for that breakout there. That bounced to the left. Okay. That looks pretty good there. And I said 4 rings. Since I don't want to be adjusting from inside the bunker, I'm going to pull from the other side of the background, or the big ring. Not too bad. Looks like we might need a little elevation adjustment. The distance was pretty good, but just a slight tad under adjusted in the left or right. All right, Vivek, have a good one. Not the best tiebreaker there, but not bad. All right, so hole 3, par 4. Huge dog leg. Not going over that water. Not unless we're Bryce and DeChambeau. Definitely not with these clubs. So looks like in order to get to Bigfoot, we're going to have to come in at an angle. So about right there. I think it is one of the holes that he drove and just smashed it. It was one very similar to that, where it's like most people were laying up like I am, and he just killed it right over it. Went right for it. Alright, we are in the max Bigfoot range. Hopefully we didn't get too far back. Let's look at how straight our guide is and if there's any turns or anything in this green. So it looks like we have a little bit of a bounce to the left. As we get closer to the hole. Let's just put a little bit of right spin, kind of straighten that up. And let's go down and set our second bounce. I want to give myself a little room to adjust. So I'm going to set up a little further back. Yeah, he can really hit it. It makes a difference on some holes when you're driving 400 and everyone else is driving 3. Even in games like this. Alright, so I'm going to give myself just a little bit of adjustment room. I want to not be pulling into the max. So it's going to be about 3.2. So let's see if about 1.8 setup is enough to give me room. No. So what I'm going to do here, there's 2 ways you can play this. You can set up with the lightning rod and then adjust and switch, or you can do find max, adjust your 3.2, see about how far away you need to be from the pin, which is about 2.1 here, and then set up your spins from there, which is the way I'm going to play it. Alright, so there's the second bounce. Landing on the back side of the pin because I have a slight headwind. Since it is a headwind, I'm only going to add 1 back. Now that I have my spin set up, as far as backspin and everything, I'm going to set up my ball guide. A little more right spin on that. As you can see here, when I go up to max, I got a bounce to the left, but I've got a wind push to the right. They should cancel each other out a little bit. I'm still in the cup at the max top. Make sure I didn't go too much on my backspin when I readjusted. Alright, and I'm going to be pulling 3.3 rings. Hey Jared, thanks for the good luck. If you missed, I did drop the first eagle and then didn't do so well on hole 2, and we're on hole 3, so good start. For me, anyway. Good start. Alright, so there's 2.9. Still pulled in to overpower just a little bit. So I'm going to let off a little backspin. The bounce out, the wind push from the right was a little bit more than my bounce out that I offset for the spin, so. But the rollout speed was good. Had we been at the cup, that probably would have dropped. Had I adjusted maybe 0.1 more, probably would have dropped also. You know, 2% extra on the elevation. Okay, hole 4, par 5. Got a little bit of an S curve there with a bunker in the way. And a bunker right before the pin on here. Tough position for the bunker if this is a longer par 5. Because then you won't be able to roll up on it as easily. So in order to get into Bigfoot, we need to be near the bottom of the shadow of the tree. As you can see, we're not even getting close to that. And we have a headwind. I'm going to go with the barchetta, see if it gets us a couple extra yards. I'm going to swap for a larger ball. There we go. Probably still going to need the El Capitan for the second shot, which means we'll have to use some side spin in order to roll up to the right or left side of that bunker. Not ideal. Hey Sandman, sorry I missed your comment. Thanks for the good luck. Thanks everyone for coming and hanging out and watching. Alright, so we're pretty far back. It's so nice that I can do this without completely exiting now. With this wind and headwind, I don't feel comfortable trying to come up along the right side of this, or left side, just because that's very tight. Given our landing position and the headwind, it's probably better that I come up along the right side. Pull back to give myself some adjustment room. We're just going to let it roll up close. Try to get a decent tiebreaker here. This is where not having huge drivers can really, you know, give you a disadvantage. For those guys that have the maxed out red barchetta, they're going to get a better chance at this than I am. So we're going to adjust 2.5 rings. It's very similar, but it's also very different, James. It's got gameplay modes that Golf Clash doesn't. It's a very good rollout there, by the way. I was afraid to, but had I used a little bit of curl, I could have been closer. Thank you for doing that for me, Sandman. Thanks, Jared, Mr. Keenan, and Sandman. All right, hole 5, par 4. If I had a headwind, I'd probably try to go for this. Or tailwind, I mean. A tailwind from here, I can get it within wedge range. With a headwind, I'd probably be mid-wedge. So I'm not going to play. I'm going to lay up. Because I'd rather have a Bigfoot shot that I have a little more control over. It's always interesting to check it out, James. We're not trying to get you to switch and not play Golf Clash or anything. It's just something to do that's different. It's got gameplay modes like Royales that are kind of fun. You've got a lot of little tournaments that are daily and not just the one big tournament. The wins are different for everybody. So whereas I have a headwind here, I would expect to see one of the other players get a tailwind. So somebody will be driving this. It just won't be me. So it's not, unlike Golf Clash with the tournaments, you're not going to sit here and be able to take my exact shots and use them for your tournament. You can look at my rollouts. You can look at the breaks in the green that I had and inform yourself, but you're not going to be able to do the exact same thing. And that's one thing that I know a lot of Golf Clash people have asked for. But of course, that'll never happen in that game. Because your biggest influencers are people who make guides like me. I'm not a big influencer, but I make guides. Yeah, I like the wind approach. You know, nice straight wind. Let's look at off to the side here. We're at min on our Bigfoot. I overdrove it. But since we got the headwind, make sure what club. Oh, that's why I'm at min. That'll help. So if you keep the Iron Eagle in your bag, look how much more room I have to adjust on my Bigfoot. Now I have room to play, and that helps. James, if you look in the description of the video, the link is there. And if you look at that friend code, you can type that in, and we can play some matches against each other if you want, to help you learn it. I haven't tried the lightning rod yet, Sandman. Mine's at a pretty low. So I'm only at a level 4 on my lightning rod. So it's not really developed yet. I did play it in the fixed club, and it is a nice club. Alright, let's look at our rollout here. So we've got a pretty big bounce and rollout on this hole. As you can see, even with max back, I'm looking at 2 rings. So we're at a headwind. I usually do 1 extra ring on back on a headwind, and the second bounce on the back side of the cup. So I'm looking at a 2.1 here. LR5 before it's usable. It was hole 6. Also the next hole that he drove. Alright, now that we got our spot, and how far we're going to roll out, hopefully. Let's try to line some things up. So as you can see from my shot view here, I'm coming in from behind it through the center of the screen, and now I can use the top spin to kind of see how it might break a little bit. It goes off to the right just a tad, but not much. One thing I forgot to do already, which I'm going to have to and reset up, is I forgot to see how far I was from max. For those of you that haven't played this game, the ring sizes vary from max to min. So it's always good to know how far you're going to be from max to know what you're truly going to adjust. So first I adjusted 3 rings because that's approximately what I'm going to have to adjust. So there's 4. So it looks like I'm about 7.2 rings from max after I finalize that adjustment. And what that's going to do to my overall adjustment is about 0.1 difference. Where I would have been adjusting slightly over 3, now I'm adjusting 2.9 because the rings are smaller at this point. Let's go back in, line everything back up. Okay, you look fairly square there. .9. Get an ultimate. Now let's see how this rollout comes in. Ooh, that's a tough break. Just a fraction over it. The rollout speed was perfect though. 2.1 rings in that headwind. And a tailwind, I'd say it's probably more closer to 2.5. And in a crosswind, we're looking at about 2.2. Good tiebreaker though. Jared knows that pain, don't you, Jared? All right, hole 6. The one Mr. Keen said that Bryson DeChambeau drove. As you can see, there's the lake, and it kind of dog legs around the lake to approach the hole. And if I remember, which this game's not going to allow us to do it, he just went like straight over here, straight at it. We can't do that. Well, it looks like I've got a very bad wind for even setting up Bigfoot range on this. You know, so if you want Bigfoot range, you're looking at needing to be around this bend here. I'm not going to get close to that bend. We'll try to see how far we can get up. But that's just the way it is. That's been your average miss, Sandman? Well, then you're right there. My red barchetta is only 2 yards with less topspin. It's not going to make a huge difference. Yeah, my clubs are fairly low. In Tour Pro, that puts me at a disadvantage. But I've been crushing chests lately, or bags. So I'm getting them there. Alright, so I've got a slight tail. So we're just going to have to kind of lay up. I believe that should be about my rollout there. Oh. When you accidentally move it after doing all that work. So I'm going to use a little bit of curl on this as well. So that way I can set up a little further back. Hey Gabriel, welcome to the string. Good landing on the first bounce. Speed looks pretty good. Nice tiebreaker, great speed. Thanks, Jared. I had to look at what my Hellfire is. Mine's fairly low. Oh, I skipped the flyover for you guys. Sorry about that. So my Hellfire's a 4. It wouldn't have put me on the green, but I would have had a better, closer look. So Hellfire would have probably been a better switch there. So this one is going to need the root. Let's see how far from max we are. First, let's see how far max backspin. Looks about 1.5 rings. Alright, so now let's see how far from max we are. About 5.6 rings. And looks like we got a slight headwind, so we want to give a little bit of room for rollout. So we're looking needing about 3.7. So now let's look at how the green breaks. So it's looking like the green is going to break to the left. So if you look at the guide here and how I have it straight before the first landing, you can kind of see that the guide goes off to the left. So we have a right to left wind and we have a left break. So we're going to have to use right spin and probably should give it a little bit of a offset to the right to give it room to kick at that last bounce to come in. So there's our right spin to straighten up our guide. Now let's go to find how far we're going to need to set up. I don't have much guide here, so this is kind of guesstimating at where it's going to be. That's why I'm not as good with this club and why I don't set up a little longer a lot of times. Alright, we're going to go right there. About 1.2. Straighten this up. Alright. So as you can see, when I go from backspin to topspin, see how that breaks to the left to where it's actually at max back, it's set up to the right, and then it goes to center pin. So as you can see here, I'm offset just a little to the right of it. I'm going to give it just a little bit more to give wind push a little bit of room as well. Pull off just a little back. And I'm going to do 3.7 rings. Let's see how we come in with our rollout. So I should have left that back on there and left it a little more. I over-adjusted just a little bit. So with max back, you're looking at about a 1.2, 1.3 rollout with a slight headwind cross. So that's, you'll play that rollout and crosses with slight head or tail, and then you will change that rollout with tail or headwind. So we got another par 4. That's a pretty wicked pin placement. Don't think anyone's driving this. It's fairly long. So let's look at, if we're going to set up in Bigfoot range, we have to be wary of the trees to the right. So we're going to give ourselves just a little bit of room and set up a little left of the trees. I like using the Fusion for the layups because it's a little shorter, but it has a little more back. So when I have a tailwind like this, I get a little more control. But that's more of a personal preference. Yeah, I agree. That's a tough pin location. Because more than likely, I'm going to have to land on the fairway. We'll see when we get up there, because I have no idea how this green rolls. It's a good thing we set up further to the left, because we have this right here. And if I was further on that right side, I'm adjusting into the trees, and being that they're close, they're going to be in play. You've also got a pretty poor adjustment because I'm going to be pulling into this bunker more than likely. So favoring setting up to the left there helped me out as far as being able to adjust. Let's look at the rollout here. Alright, so we can land on the green because we're looking at about a 1.7, 1.8 rollout. Let's see how far I am from max. So I'm about 3.6 rings from max. Which means I'm going to be pulling about 3.3 rings. It's a slight tailwind, so that's probably going to push me into about 3.7 rings from max, which won't really affect the adjustment. Now, so I'm not adjusting from within the sand and any angles there and pulling downhill. I'll actually pull from the other side of center just to make it a little more even of a pull. You can also push your rings, but you know, pushing's a little harder. Alright, looking at our break here, it's going to break to the left. We also have the same push to the left. So let's straighten up our guide. There we go. Now let's go in and line up with our pin. I need to be set up closer. I misread how much that rolled out. Okay, so that's looking a little more like 1.3. You can see this green has a little bit of an uphill. That's going to chalk up the rollout. So it's not going to get as big of a rollout. As we push closer though, it's not changing. So we don't have to worry about it pulling up short because the slope gets greater as we get up closer to the hole. Some holes you have to worry about that. Okay, so let's pull 3.3. There's 2.9. Another 4.5. And we hit a great shot. Maybe we over adjusted and we'll drop it anyway. Nope. But good rollout speed. Distance was perfect. The 1.3 was perfect rollout. Just slightly over adjusted. So I would say if we were doing elevation, taking off another 2%. And it was maybe due to adjusting into the bunker and doing a multiple adjusting. Keep forgetting to let the flyover happen so you guys can actually see the hole. Alright, so we've got a headwind on this par 4. In order to get into Bigfoot range, we need to be on the back side of the shadow of that Chorito. So let's switch to the Barchetta. Let's look at max top, max overpower. So probably don't need the overpower. Just a little bit of overpower. Oh, that's ugly. Well, that's not going to help us, is it? Let's look at what I have here. Looks like I need this Adobe. Now I got to try to get up in wedge range to rescue this hole. And I'm going to have that horde tiebreaker. I hit that bag great. That's what happens sometimes when you lose focus. Wow, that was a poor rollout too. I'm gonna have a long wedge. So looking here. So we're looking at about a 65% wedge and headwind. Maybe a 60%. I was set up a little closer than I thought. And wedges and headwind. I always have trouble knowing if the rollout is going to be the same or not. .1. Green looks fairly flat and straight. I don't see much break. Looks like I have a slight twist, so it's not a straight, which is unfortunate. It's a lot easier if it's a straight wind. We got lucky. Alright, so we finished the front 9 with a -12. We got 1 extra. Had some really close drops. So I would be expecting to see Jimmy and Duff get an extra 3 drops on that, if not 4. Thanks, Jared. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them with a -16. So hole 10. It's par 4. Another dog leg. The pin is in a better location this time. We're not having to set up in that bottleneck. Oh, we have a tail. Let me take a look. Trees kind of in the way. Be nice if I could use that cart path, but I can't. And that dog leg is going to make it a bit harder to hold. I'm not afraid to shoot out that sand or rough. What do you guys think? Send it? And if I set up about right here with max curl, I think I'd be better off with the Fusion, right? Because Fusion has more, no, it has less curl. I'm going to need the curl. Go for it. You just want to see me go for it in case you need it, right, Duff? Welcome to the stream. All right, let's go for it. I'm pretty sure I'll probably end up in that bunker. We got the fairway. And right where I thought I'd end up, in the bunker. But that's fine. I should be in a no adjust range. I'm gonna have to change this club though. Yeah, definitely gonna want. Let's see, there's the Orca. Let's look at the IG88. Got about the same ball guide, but a greater accuracy. So, it is a sand wedge. As you can see, we're in no adjust range. So I'm just going to set up center. And try to hit perfect here. Yes, and more topspin. We hit ultimate shot. Rolling in. And we drop an eagle. Nice start to our back nine. Now, they told us that they may use these rounds for the boss battle. So I might be the day one. So we got another big dog leg. Pin is in a good position this time. No sended, even though we got a tailwind for once. I'm a lot more comfortable shooting out of the rough and sand close there than I am with the wedge. So I don't really, with the Mojave, doesn't bother me that much. For those of you that don't count, I use a 3 count on those shots, and it helps me hit the ultimate shot a lot more often. So when it swings past center, it kind of blinks, and that's when I start counting. I go 1, 2, 3 and release, and I get a lot more ultimate shots there. The nice thing about using the Mojave is we got a nice cheap eagle. Alright, so we're looking at needing to be right around where the max is on our club. We got a tailwind. So I'm going to add 1 back on it. So what do you guys think of the course so far? It seems like a fairly tough course. A lot of bends and dog legs, the water. But there's a couple holes that you have a good shot at getting an extra, even if you're not as good of a player like me. Yeah, I definitely needed a little more curl there. The higher red barchettas, I don't know if they have more curl, but if they do, you might be on the green instead of the sand like me. So we went a lot longer than I expected. We hit the max on that, so I have no clue. I'm going to have to count from min. Oh, and that's a big bounce out. Ouch. So I'm not going to be able to use Bigfoot here. I've got the smallest short iron in. I've got a tailwind, and the rollout is too long. So I'm going to have to switch my short iron. And let's look between our 2 clubs here. Yeah, just going to have to go with the Spectre. Okay, so a little bit more curl. on the higher red barchettas. So you still might end up in the bunker. Maybe if you try to trim the edge. I think I was at the very far right from trimming the edge of that tree. All right. So just for those of you again, you noticed before with the Bigfoot, I was able to adjust Bigfoot, but once I put this Spectre in here, the Bigfoot's no longer in the picture. And that's because they actually overlap in their range, which is why you should always carry the Iron Eagle in your bag if you're planning on using the Bigfoot, just to give yourself more room to adjust. Alright, Duff. Good luck on your round tonight. I plan on popping by and watching. Just watching you destroy me. So it looks like this green is going to have a bounce to the left on the rollout. And we got a wind to the right, which is going to close that bounce out a little bit. So if I go about right there, let's see if I can spin this back in. Let's see how far I am from max. So it looks like I'm about 6 rings from max. So I'm going to need about 3.8 rings. Alright, Sandman. I'll do that. I had it measured, you know, that the red bar is where I should be from max out zoom. But sometimes it's off and it doesn't make sense. But it could be, you know, when I'm at an angle like I was on that hole. So I should have left the backspin on that one. It didn't rip back. So that means the green around the hole on that one isn't exactly even. That makes sense. Yeah, because normally I could go and put it right there, and my max Bigfoot is at the top of the shadow of that second tree, which I won't get to. So it looks like if I'm on the left side of the screen, I'm going to get a roll to the right. If I'm on the right side, it doesn't turn much. We don't want to risk rolling off into the rough here. And unfortunately, it's outside our distance to know for sure. I'm not going to max overpower this because I'm not sure. Alright, Mr. Keenan. Thanks for popping by. I think we've already messaged before, Jordan. So I can send you the a PM. Yeah, no problem. I coded this myself, so I have no problem with modifying it. Alright, so it's fairly flat in that area, so that's nice. If I blasted, I probably would have been up a little nicer. So we're going to have to roll up. That's interesting. So there must be an upslope there in front of the green. Because you notice when I push up, that guide's not getting any further down. Let's take a look at the Capitan. Just so we can see a little more topspin. And see how that roll looks a little better. So I'm going to use this club instead. Alright, now let's back off our topspin. Interesting there. Try to straighten this out. So we get a more honest rollout to the pin. There we go. That's going to be too much. Alright, let's go with 4 top. Still think that might be too much. But at least we'll get a good read for the other people. Help if I didn't. Let's push our rings. So there is an upslope on that green. And 3.5 top was probably good. because it gets a pretty good roll once you get onto the green. But it's that area in front of the green that can really check up your roll, which we bounced over. So not the best of tiebreakers there. All right, so we have a par 4 over the water, hole 13. That tree wasn't in the way. You might be able to kind of utilize that cart path. But we definitely have a tree in the way there. Since we can't reach, and we don't want to be shooting at max wedge, let's lay up short here and go Bigfoot, Bigfoot. Give myself some room to adjust. We do get a slight headwind, but we should have enough room to adjust there. So let's look at our rollout here. So as you can see, it's fairly straight. So we shouldn't have to worry about too much left to right. Might be just a hair left turn on it. All right, now let's look at max back minus 1.2. See what kind of bounce out we get. It's a slight head, so I'm going to put it on the back side of the pin. So we're looking at about 1.5. Maybe 1.6. Yeah, I'm going to say 1.6. Alright, so now we're straight on the pin. Still straight on the pin there. We go max back. It's a little to the right of the pin. So we're going to get a little bit of left bounce, but we got a left to right push. So I'm going to center that up a little more. There we go. I'm looking at about 3.2. All right, let's see how well we did. A little under adjusted there, a little short, so 1.5 on the rollout from max back and a cross light headwind. So I'm not putting up the best of tiebreakers on this back nine. All right, so we have par 3, hole 14, pin location in the center. We've got a straight headwind. Looks like we're going to be into max Bigfoot range. Oh, nope. We're going to be in wood range. So let's look at the break. So it looks like a little to the left, but it straightens out as we get closer to the hole. So it's going to turn to the right. As we get closer to the hole. Let's look at our rollout. It's an uphill, so it's going to be a shorter rollout. We've got a headwind as well, so we're going to get a bit of compression. Can't wait till I get a little bit more defined guide on this club, because it's so hard to tell. Alright, so I'm thinking about 1.2. Alright, Jordan, thanks for popping by. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream so far, and learned some things. And make sure you double back and check it. For those of you still watching, hit the thumbs up. Let Ultimate Golf know that you like this type of content and these options, because they do monitor these streams. Alright, so we've got it set up at 1.2. We've got our max back on there. And we've got our headwind. Let's look at what my adjustment will be. About 3.45. So there's 3.1. So that would be 4.5. All right. Let's see how we come in. Good bounce. Oh, that was in line. So 1.1 on the straight headwind. That was a nice shot, though. Just a little bit more. Maybe if I had taken off that little tick of backspin that was in. I mean, we were running dead center towards the pin. Just needed a little less back. All right, hole 15, par 4. Another dog leg with a bottleneck right in front, but at least we've got the pin in the back of the green here. The pin in the front of the green would be a lot harder. Alright, so we are in Bigfoot range, and we should be plenty of room to adjust. As I said before, Iron Eagle in the bag, because I was assuming I was going to have a headwind. I left myself a little more room. A 4.4 adjustment is normally 3.2. So let's see how far we're going to be from max. So about 8.5 rings from max after adjustment. So we're going to need about a 3.1. Let's look at our rollout, or our bounce of the green read. See what kind of information we can get from as it approaches the hole. So it looks like we're going to get a little bit of a left turn. Sometimes I wish I didn't have that little flag marker there, because it blocks me going over the hole directly. Alright, let's look at our rollout. This is a headwind. I like to do 1.5. And headwinds. Okay, so it looks like about a 2.1, 2.2. As you can see, it's landing around the 1.8 on the second bounce. So a little bit longer, which means it's fairly flat, maybe a little downslope. As we approach the pin, that arch is not closing. It's staying about the same. And as we approach the pin, it's not turning too much. So I put the max top on it. I'm still hitting the pin. Max back. I'm still in line with the pin. And I'm going to adjust 3.1. Now I'm going to reline up because I was trying to zoom in. I threw it all off. When you accidentally grab it when you're trying to zoom and mark and had to redo everything, it's fairly annoying. I'm pretty sure it attributes to some of my misses as well. Let's see how we come in. Another just right there. So about 2.1 instead of 2.2. Now in tailwind, you're going to get a larger rollout. In crosswind, it's going to be a larger rollout as well. So that's probably the perfect distance for a crosswind. And you need a little bit further back for your tailwind. I get to be first place for a little bit. Interesting hole here. Par 5. You're going to be over the water on the second shot, and it's on the front part. So really tough pin location. It looks like we won't have any trouble getting into wood range. With the right wind, Bigfoot range is certainly possible. So we have a 311. 311 puts us in Bigfoot range. Let's see how far into it we are. Right at the max. So you probably, since we're at a headwind, 310 will keep you around max Bigfoot. If you get headwind on that drive, you're probably looking at needing your wood. Looking at the guide here, See, maybe a little bit of right turn. We got left or right to left wind, so we're going to get a push there as well. Let's look at what kind of rollout we have. So we're at a fairly short high arc on our bounce outer and Bigfoot, which means that there's a slightly uphill slope to the green, but a consistent one. I don't see it changing much front to back. Let's see if it changes much side to side. Let's zoom out a little more. Not a lot of side to side in it as well. So let's go ahead and line up our shot. Let's start by seeing how far from max I am. I'm going to go with about a 1.3. So I'm 2 rings from max. I'll probably lose about a tenth of that. So 1.9 rings from max. So I'm going to need about 3.1 on my adjustment. All right, let's line up, get all straight. Okay, that all looks fairly straight. And I said 3.1. Let's see how we come in. Another right there on the cusp. A little under adjusted. My number is actually 3.15 from my calculation. So I left it at 3.1, maybe a little under. An albatross would have been nice there, but not too bad. I mean, we're definitely getting close to these drops. And if I'd had, say, a second look, I could probably dial those in a little bit more. So we got a par 3, hole 17. Pins in a good location. It could be a lot worse if it was on that front right and you're right there at that spot. Wood's going to be a little rough here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my wood to a basic. I think it's basic. Let me see which one of these is the shortest. Alright, Alright, let's try this Maverick and the Holy Driver and see if we can get near Min Holy Driver here. We could, but it's not going to give us a lot of room to adjust. If I had a headwind or a crosswind, I would probably be using the Holy Driver. What I'm going to have to do instead is use the root and use a higher power ball. Alright, so we have a little bit of a tailwind. Let's put our second bounce in front of that cup. Okay, right there. Add 1.5 to it. So we're gonna try with 3 backspin. And we're gonna need about 3.84, so 3.9 we'll say. Looks fairly straight on the rollout. I'm going to pull from the other side, so I'm not using the bunker. Let's see how it rolls. A little left and a little long. A lot long, actually. So probably needed another 2 backspin, another 5% on the adjustment. Not a very good look on that one. Last hole. So as this is running through it, thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the course. So hole 18. Fairly straight. The pin is in a little bit of a rough position, right along the backside of that lake. It's a longer hole, so no driving it close. It's going to be hard to tell. Let's look at this green here. Looks pretty flat. Maybe a little bit of an upslope on this front lip here. So hopefully we want to land within this square, because this fringe area here is definitely going to change your trajectory. So it's not going to be an easy Bigfoot shot for getting in there. We've got a headwind. May not even get to Bigfoot. So we're looking at needing in this range right here for Bigfoot. Looks like we've got a little bit of a down slope on that, so we're going to run long. Got a headwind. We have our Bigfoot. So there's the men right at the rocks. There's the Max up here. So if we were adjusting from there, we would need about 3.8. So let's see how far we are from Max. There's 10.2. So 14.2. Which means we're going to need about 3.6 from our spot. So let's take a look at this green here. That could just be a coloring, because it doesn't seem to be affecting our bounce to land in this area here. I don't see it moving around much. Alright, now let's look at how far we're going to bounce out from our landing spot. Got a headwind. Hopefully we have plenty of room of clearance on the green for landing. So it looks about 2.1. There we go. Looks like we have plenty of room there. Let's straighten it up. So based off of this, it looks like it's going to bounce off to the right just a hair, which we had already adjusted for some. But we also have a right push on the wind, so I want to give it just a little bit more. And now we're going to adjust 3.6. So that is 3.4. All right, let's see how we roll out on our last hole. Good, nice and straight. Hit the pin. So we needed about a 2.2. We were set up at 2.1. So the rollout was a little longer than we expected. The side spin and adjustment was good. We were just set up a little too close. Alright everyone, thanks for joining, thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something for when you get to play this. And hopefully it'll help you get a few more drops. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments and I'll answer to the best of my abilities. If you want to, I just blanked. So if you have any questions, I'll answer them to the best of my abilities. Good luck on your round when you play this. I'm assuming it'll be sometime next week or the week after. They'll probably have an Ultimate Boss tournament or just a weekly tournament. Please hit the like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. And if you enjoyed this type of video and the creator tournaments, please hit the like. It lets the hype team and Miniclip know that you like this type of stuff. Because as I said, they are monitoring whether or not these videos do better than others. So, thank you all, and goodbye.